Hey, so a couple weeks ago I was lucky enough to be able to take a trip to New York City, and I thought I would share a little bit about that trip with you, just as I have done in the past. Now I have to start off by saying that I think I'm officially an adult now because I had to drive myself to the airport at 6:02 a.m. I also had to park in the creepy deserted airport parking structure, I had to remember where I parked, and I had to not hit that giant concrete pylon as I pulled it to my space. Almost all these tasks I was successful at, and by that I mean that later I did forget where I parked. I definitely did not hit that concrete pylon. But soon I said goodbye to the creepy airport parking structure and its eclectic color scheme, and before I knew it, I was in New York City. That day we took it pretty easy. A little shopping, a little of the best frozen yogurt in the world. That evening my dad, my camera-shy mom, and I went to dinner at a French restaurant with fancy table candles and a sweet view of an 8th Avenue DVD warehouse. The next day I went from our hotel off of Times Square to Soho to visit the offices of the website VYou. Now I didn't get a ton of footage while I was there, but I will say that VYou looked pretty much like this, and everyone who worked there looked pretty much like this. I did get a little footage of a ping-pong match between myself and obliging VYouer Daniel, though keeping score was somewhat difficult as I struggled against both the laws of physics and my own poor hand-eye coordination. That evening I went out with my aunt to do some shopping. I know it's pretty dark here, but you might notice that she bears a striking resemblance to my mom. The next day, she and her gentleman friend Mark and my parents and I went to lunch at the Peking Duck House, where Peking duck was had, fortunes were contemplated, and I tried to pull off a successful orange smile, something I had not attempted since elementary school, probably for good reason. Afterward, we got nice and touristy and visited Rockefeller Center, where I tried to do that thing where it looks like I'm holding up the statue, but again was not entirely successful. We had dinner with more family that night at an Italian restaurant where we all got to catch up, and desserts were thoroughly enjoyed. Later in the evening, I met up with a good friend of mine from high school, and we went with a group of her friends to a bar in the West Village where there was pool and ping pong and shuffleboard. Having become acquainted with my own ping pong ability earlier in the trip, I opted to play pool. My pool skills were slightly better than my ping pong skills, though the lengthy amount of time we spent discussing this next shot here did very little to make it any more effective. I do have to say though, right before this, I did sink like 3 shots in a row. Seriously, I hit those billiards harder than I did not hit that airport pylon. That next morning was one of the parts of the trip that I was most excited about, and also admittedly most nervous about. I was holding an informal gathering at Pulitzer Fountain across the street from the Plaza Hotel, and I have to admit I was pretty scared that no one would come. But people came, and it was awesome. We took pictures and slow-motion high-fived, and I got to sign a book for Naomi's cousin and make a t-shirt for Anna's friend in Hungary. We took an awesome group picture, but later I realized that the group picture did exclude latecomers, so latecomers, feel free to Photoshop yourselves in. And everyone introduced themselves, we talked about the internet and where we're all from, and billiards as it relates to math, and the best schoolhouse rock songs, and it was fantastic. Later that day, the awesomeness continued, as I was lucky enough to also go to a gathering in Madison Square Park, held by the Nerd Fighters of New York, whose emblem can be seen here on this super sweet t-shirt that Thomas gave me. The gathering featured a silent dance party where everyone downloads the same playlist and wearing headphones listens to it at the same time. To everyone involved, it's a simultaneous music dance party extravaganza, but to everyone else, it just kind of sounds like this. The dancing was awesome, and the company was awesome, and that was kind of the theme of this year's trip. I love New York City, that is undeniable, but this time it wasn't so much about the where, but the who. Cities are often defined by their buildings, or their landmarks, or their cuisine, but a city at its very core is just a collection of people. Now I tried Googling quotes about the awesomeness of people to try to round this out in a somewhat more eloquent manner, but I couldn't really find something that expressed how I felt. So my own clumsy quote will have to suffice, and that's that even though sometimes it can be easy to lose sight of it, people have an incredible capacity to be awesome. The awesomeness of people was alive and well in New York City, and I was lucky enough to be able to witness it.